When we read about strange sightings of unexplained creatures walking about or stalking the night, oftentimes we write these off as being nothing more than the imagination of common folk, or even, perhaps, those experiencing hallucinations due to mental illness or drug use. It's rare, then, that a highly educated person, specifically a scientist well respected in his field, would make a claim that there truly is a monster stalking the mountainside. Welcome to the Crafty Cryptid. Here you can enjoy watching relaxing DIY crafts while listening to the darkest and most mysterious tales I can find. If you enjoy this kind of content, click subscribe and ding the notification bell. I post on this channel every week. Today, we're going to dive into the story of Scotland's own Bigfoot, Am Fear Liath Mór. Professor J. Norman Colley was a highly respected scientist and mountaineer. In 1896, he was appointed Professor of Organic Chemistry at University College London, and amongst his other achievements, he was responsible for the first ever medical X-ray photograph. In the climbing world, he pioneered many climbs on the Isle of Skye and in the Alps, and in 1895, he was part of the first ever attempt on an 8,000-meter peak in the Himalayas. In late 1925, the still eminent and active professor was a man whose words carried a great deal of weight with his audience during a speech he gave about an experience he had while alone on the summit of Ben MacDui. I was returning from the cairn on the summit in a mist when I began to think I heard something else than merely the noise of my own footsteps. For every few steps I took, I heard a crunch, and then another crunch, as if someone was walking after me, but taking steps 3 or 4 times the length of my own. I said to myself, this is all nonsense. I listened and heard it again, but could see nothing in the mist. As I walked on and the eerie crunch, crunch, crunch sounded behind me, I was seized with terror and took to my heels, staggering blindly among the boulders for 4 or 5 miles, nearly down to Rothamercus Forest. Whatever you make of it, I do not know, but there is something very queer about the top of Ben MacDui, and I will not go back there again by myself, I know. This extremely experienced, well-respected, and logical scientist and mountaineer was scared out of his mind by something large, foreboding, and unknown that he experienced in the mists of Ben MacDui. What is it that could have terrified the professor so badly? Professor Colley's comments caused a sensation and attracted a great deal of press coverage. Suddenly, other respectable and responsible climbers and mountaineers started to acknowledge that they, too, had had similar experiences on Ben MacDui, but had not broadcast them before for fear of ridicule. In fact, so many experiences with this mysterious figure came to light that the creature was given a name, Am Fear Liath Mór, or the Big Gray Man of Ben MacDui. The Gray Man is reported to be a very tall humanoid, at least 8 feet, though some have said it is as tall as 30 feet. It's covered in short gray hair, hence the name. Many times, witnesses never saw the creature, but heard its massive footsteps trailing behind them, just as Professor Colley had. Not only are the footsteps commonly heard, but so is a high-pitched humming noise, and even psychic effects such as negative energy, extreme lethargy, and overwhelming panic. After Professor Colley's incident, more notable experiences were reported. 3 men were walking and saw a large creature that looked like a man, but had an eerie, inhuman face. A couple weeks later, the gray man showed up and chased their car, trying to get in. He chased them a short distance, but ran up to 45 miles per hour. Alistair Borthwick's 1939 book about climbing in Scotland, Always a Little Further, relates the accounts of 2 climbers he knew who had experienced Am Fear Liath Mór. Writes Borthwick, "The first was alone, heading over MacDui on a night when the snow had a hard, crisp crust through which his boots broke at every step. He reached the summit, and it was while he was descending the slopes that he heard footsteps behind him. Footsteps not in the rhythm of his own, but occurring only once for every 3 steps he took. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? I felt a queer, crinkly feeling in the back of my neck," the man told Borthwick. "But I said to myself, this is silly. There must be some reason for it. So I stopped, and the footsteps stopped. And I sat down and tried to reason it out. I could see nothing. There was a moon about somewhere, but the mist was fairly thick. The only thing I could make of it was that when my boots broke through the snow crust, they made some sort of echo. But then every step should have echoed, and not just this regular 1 in 3. I was scared stiff. I got up and walked on, trying hard not to look behind me. I got down all right. The footsteps stopped 1,000 feet above my destination, and I didn't run. But if anything had so much as said boo behind me, I'd have been down the mountain like a streak of lightning." The second man's experience was roughly similar. He was on MacDui and alone, writes Borthwick. He heard footsteps. He was climbing in daylight in summer, but so dense was the mist that he was working by compass, and visibility was almost as poor as it would have been at night. The footsteps he heard were made by something or someone trudging up the fine screes which decorate the upper parts of the mountain, a thing not extraordinary in itself, though the steps were only a few yards behind him, but exceedingly odd when the mist suddenly cleared and he could see no living thing on the mountain, at that point devoid of cover of any kind. "Did the steps follow yours exactly?" Borthwick asked him. "No," he said. "That was the funny thing. They didn't. They were regular, all right, but the queer thing was that they seemed to come once for every 2.5 steps I took." He thought it queerer still when I told him the other man's story. You see, he was long-legged and 6 feet tall, and the first man was only 5 feet 7. "Once I was out with a search party on MacDui," writes Borthwick, "and on the way down after an unsuccessful day, I asked some of the gamekeepers and stalkers who were with us what they thought of it all. They worked on MacDui, so they should know. Had they seen the big gray man? Did he exist? Or was it just a silly story? They looked at me for a few seconds, and then one said, 'We do not talk about that.'" I hope you enjoyed this video. To be notified when I post next, click subscribe and ding the notification bell. I post every week on this channel. Leave a comment and a like for the YouTube algorithm. Thanks for watching, and stay safe, Cryptids.